I'm Brad Wilcox, and this is Family Studies. You've probably heard the proverb that good fences make good neighbors. I'd like to think today about how this long-standing proverb applies not just to neighbors, but to our spouses and partners. And the story of Nicole Brown will help you understand where I'm going with this idea. I made sure not to make a sound, wrote Nicole, talking about her experience showering. Why? Because my husband and kids were in the next room, completely oblivious. Now, they were completely oblivious to the fact that she was in the shower FaceTime with an old flame. Nicole goes on to explain how a chance meeting with this man during a low point in her marriage led her to a virtual affair that never got physical IRL, that is in real life, but nevertheless helped pave the way for the dissolution of her marriage. Now, in the annals of crossing inappropriate online boundaries, FaceTiming another man in the shower while your family's in the next room has got to rank up there, even if it's not quite Anthony Weiner level. But when you kind of hear sensational and salacious stories like this, you gotta kind of ask yourself, how common is this kind of problem? Is this like a major issue? So to answer that question, my colleague Jeff Dew and I set out to explore the association between people's attitudes towards online infidelity by conducting a national representative survey with YouGov that we call the iFidelity survey, to look at the relationship between online infidelity and the quality of their relationships in the real world. The good news from this iFidelity survey is that a clear majority of men and women embrace an ethic of restraint online, steering clear of crossing romantic and emotional boundaries on smartphones, computers, and tablets that might land them into dangerous relationship territory. So for instance, more than 70% of people reject carrying on a secret emotional relationship online, and more than 80% reject sexting. But the possibilities the internet offers to explore romantic and sexual alternatives online, often anonymously, is proving more difficult for younger Americans and for cohabiting couples to handle. These two groups are much more likely to think it's okay to cross these boundaries online. In our new report, iFidelity, we find that cohabiting Gen X and millennial men and women are less likely to rate things like sexting and following an old boyfriend or girlfriend online as morally problematic compared to their married and older peers. For instance, only 26% of millennials think that following an old flame online raises a red flag, compared to 56% of the greatest generation. A similar divide between cohabiting and married partners is apparent for online etiquette, with only 77% of cohabiting men and women expressing concern about sexting compared to 84% of married men and women. What's more, our study finds that both younger and cohabiting Americans are more likely to kind of lower the fence online to attractive alternatives by doing things like sexting, having a secret emotional relationship, or following an old flame online. But does crossing these online boundaries really matter? Kind of what's the big deal? The work of the psychologist Scott Stanley suggests the answer to this question is yes. He observes that good fences between men and women in relationships and the attractive alternatives they confront in their social worlds and professional worlds make for stronger and more satisfying relationships. Without such fences, there's always a temptation to focus on the green grass in someone else's yard, to appreciate someone else's looks, humor, personality, ideas, or character, and to discount the good things about your own partner. This temptation is particularly great when our relationships have grown full of weeds. Those frustrations, difficulties, are really serious problems that can spring up in any relationship. The problem with looking over the fence is that not only are we more likely to fall into infidelity, but we're also less likely to invest in the partner we're already with. Hence, it helps to erect a fence of sorts between ourselves and attractive alternatives, not dwelling upon them or devoting much attention to them, and instead focusing on making our own lawns greener, especially if our own lawns are looking a little bit brown. Most lawns, Stanley observes, even those overrun with weeds, respond well to tender love and care. Indeed, in our YouGov survey, we find that men and women who erect electronic fences online are markedly more likely to enjoy stronger and more satisfying relationships. Fence crossing from sexting to following an old flame is linked by contrast with lower quality relationships. So from our data, we can't tell if these relationship troubles pushes people to ignore iFences, or if failing to erect such fences leads men and women into trouble. We suspect it's a bit of both. What is clear, though, is that husbands and wives who don't sex, who don't engage in secret emotional relationships online, and who don't follow flames enjoy markedly higher quality marriages. Take, for instance, a man that I'll call Patrick, a tall, handsome, physically fit redhead who's in sales in Virginia. He's been happily married for 20 years. He travels a lot for his work, he meets a lot of new people, and these are both risk factors for infidelity. But he's intentional about protecting his marriage in real life. When I'm meeting new people in my line of work, I talk a lot about my wife and kids. I want them to know I'm a family man. Patrick takes a similar approach online. My wife is tagged in the majority of my posts. My status is listed as married, and interactions online are treated the same way as if in person. The fence he maintains in the real and virtual worlds between himself and alternatives is one reason that Patrick's marriage is so strong, both because it keeps him focused on his wife, and it also affords her a measure of emotional security in their relationship. The rise of the internet is an epoch-making phenomenon, a phenomenon that has transformed so much of our contemporary world, for better and for worse. When it comes to our relationships, the for better are the ways in which it's made it easier for us to reach out and connect with our loved ones, like FaceTiming your husband when you're away on a business trip. But our new report suggests that the internet also has real potential to push our relationships in a for worse direction, especially for younger adults and cohabiting couples who are testing emotional and sexual boundaries online. For those of you who wish to have a strong and satisfying relationship, though, it looks like the ability to forsake all others, not just in real life, but also online, is critical. In other words, good eye fences make for good relationships.